Hello riders. Today's video, going to give you a safety inspection, how to go over your bike, a few things to check before you go out on a ride, whether it be your first ride for the spring or any regular day. There are a few things you want to look at on your bike. Make sure your bike's safe to ride, make sure you're not going to have any problems, make sure you're not going to get in an accident or get stuck from your house an hour outside of town and have a bad day. A pretty good example of what a tire looks like when it's been ridden underinflated. You can see how the middle is scalloped almost, but then kind of toward the edges here, it's really worn down. And once again, what happens is the tire should be a nice U shape like this, but then when it's underinflated, the middle sinks in. So the middle doesn't wear down as much. This part right here wears down because that's what's contacting the road. And this is a very, as you can see, it needs replaced anyhow, but the middle has more tread than these edges, and you've just ruined this tire and can't get its full life out of it because you ran it underinflated. So this is a good example of what a tire looks like when it's been ran underinflated. And a lot of times these sections right here will be completely bald. So this one is not as bad as it could be, but that's what happens when you don't run proper tire pressure. You also want to check your oil before you go for a ride as well. A lot of the super bikes, leader bikes have a cutout in the fairing somewhere. Sometimes it's on the right side, sometimes it's on the left side. It's usually a little circle bigger than a quarter or so. Just check your oil level, make sure you can see it in the sight glass. A lot of times as well, sight glasses will have a mark on the top and bottom, kind of on your engine case, that show a high level and a low level. As long as it's in between those two, you're fine. It can be a little high, it's not the end of the world, but you want to make sure there's at least some air bubble in your sight glass. If it's completely filled up, then you might have double the oil that you need in there. You just don't know. And if it's a little low, top it off with some oil. You just do not want to run anything with low oil. As well, along the same lines, always check your brake fluid. I see a lot of people put the little sweat bands over their brake reservoirs to make it, look cool. That's fine if you're checking it regularly, but if you're not checking it regularly, then just take it off because you have no idea what condition your brake fluid's in, how much is in there. You need to make sure you have brake fluid. There's a low mark and a high mark on the brake fluid reservoirs. Same with your clutch. If you have a hydraulic clutch, always, always, always make sure it is above the low level. If it gets below the low level, you might be in a turn or something and go to hit the brakes and suck in a big air bubble, and you're not going to have any brakes. And you not want to be in a turn or going down the highway, have somebody slam on the brakes or something. You have to hit the brakes and suck in an air bubble because you don't have enough brake fluid. Okay, as far as checking your headlights here, turn the bike on. Always make sure your headlight kicks on. You can flash your high beam as well, make sure it works. After that, always check the turn signals. Make sure both your front turn signal and your rear turn signal are coming on. Check the other side as well. Make sure it's coming on. They all are. Now, the big one is to make sure your brake lights work. Easiest way to check your brake lights is I'll put my hand behind it. If you're in the garage and your bike's not running, you can back it up to the garage door. Just hold your hand behind it. Hold the front brake lever, make sure it's lighting up. Hit your back brake lever, make sure it's lighting up as well. Once again, if you're hitting your brake lever and nothing is changing, it's either because you have a bad switch or one of your switches is stuck off. And if it's stuck on, that usually means you have something out of alignment, which it's switched to aftermarket rear sets or levers. A lot of times they won't hit the button they're supposed to activate your brake light. So then your brake light is just always off. So make sure you check them up. Okay, for checking your brakes, you always want to make sure you have pressure on both your front brake lever and your rear pedal. You should be able to squeeze them and feel pressure pretty instantly on both of them. If you hit your brake lever and it goes way down farther than you think it should, or if it hits your fairing, then that means it needs bled. You need your brake fluid replaced, and that's all there is to it. Can't get around it, just gotta get a brake fluid flush. If you pull in your front brake lever and you pull it and it hits your handle, then you need your brake fluid flushed. You have no brake pressure. If you can pull it and it's soft, but then pull it a couple more times and you get pressure, you need to bleed your brakes, replace your brake fluid. Just make sure you have pressure in them both. If you are unsure, just get it replaced. Or if you are unsure, you can sit on your bike and start them up, go down your driveway or something, just go slow. Just make sure when you pull them that it has enough power to stop you. You don't want to be going down the road 70 miles an hour and find out you don't have brake pressure. Also, check your brake pads. On sub bikes, it's hard to see the rear ones just because of where they sit. There's not really a good angle to look at them. You just kind of got to cram your head in there, or take your cell phone out, take a small video and a short video and just move it around where you think you should be able to see them, and then pull it out and watch the video. That's the easiest way to do it. To check your front brake pads, it's very easy. You just gotta look at the bike straight on, need a flashlight or something. You should be able to see your brake pads pretty easily. But always check them before you go for a ride. Just make sure you got plenty of brakes. Another thing to check to make sure your bike is safe for ride is your front forks. It's really easy to check. Just make sure they are clean and there's no fluid on them. You can use a rag or your hand or whatever and just touch them, and there shouldn't be anything on your hand. If you get some fluid on your hand, your fork seals are leaking, it's not the end of the world. However, when they start to leak really bad, they will run onto your brakes and your rotor, and once they get on your rotor and your brake pads, they do not want to stop like they should. So just make sure that if your forks start to leak, you either wipe them down really well, clean them up. Don't let it go forever. Just get it done. Get them, replaced, your fork seals, so that you don't have fluid all over your caliper, all over your brake pads, because then you have to replace your brake pads. You can get away with just cleaning off the rotor, but you just don't want fork fluid everywhere. It'll slow you down. You won't be able to stop. Make sure they're clean. Make sure they're not leaking. You always want to check your chain. Make sure your chain is adjusted properly. Make sure it's lubed as well. Check your service manual, or a lot of times there's a sticker right here that'll tell you, how much play there should be. It's usually a distance from like the bottom of your swing arm to the middle of the chain. So I'll say 99% of bikes have you check it on the side stand. There are some that have you check it on the center stand, or the bike unweighted straight up and down, but 99% of them are on the side stand. I will tell you, just from doing this so many times, this one isn't bad. It could maybe be adjusted a little bit, but it's not terrible. You always want to make sure it's lubed up. If it is too tight, never ride with your chain too tight. It will wear down your gearbox, all your gears in there. That's just not supposed to have that much pressure on it. It just wreaks havoc if you have it way too tight. Just don't ride with it too tight. If it is too loose, it'll bounce off your swing arm in a couple places. I've seen people wear some pretty good grooves into swing arms from loose chains, and then if it gets too bad, hopefully you don't have to replace your swing arm, but it can do some damage, and you just don't want it coming off. Those are the two biggest things to watch out for. Just keep it right in the middle like the manual says, and you don't have to worry about anything. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a few things about your bike today. Keep you safe out there. If you have any questions, want to know some more, visit richardsonmotoworks.com. We'll get you taken care of.